Hi there. This video is actually about how I turned this old computer that I got on Kijiji for about $60, which I actually got for free because of this kind man, into a server that I run 24/7 at home that pretty much syncs all my data from my computer and my phone so that at any given point, wherever I create data, either on my phone or my computer, it's immediately synced to my hard drive that's sitting in the garage right now. Basically, I got this computer on Kijiji. I was looking for something cheap, something simple, something old, just because it has to run a server 24/7. The only requirement I had was that it had like a little bit of computing power and a little bit of RAM and was able to connect to the internet. And it wasn't broken in any way. I didn't want to get involved in fixing a computer. So this is the computer I have. It's a Dell Optiplex 760. You can see the NeoFetch on the right hand side. So I have the server running right now. It's running Ubuntu 2004. And as you can see, for now it's been running for 5 days. And it's been pretty good so far. I'm using the server for two reasons right now. One is Syncthing to sync all the data. That's what I was talking about. And then another is to use Raspberry Pi Hole, which is an ad blocker that's network wide. I'm thinking of using this for a couple more things later down the line. So basically, this is a pretty old computer. It had 4 gigs of RAM on it, and they were actually misconfigured, and I had to pull them out and reconfigure them. Both like these two are 1 gig sticks, the ones in white, like one's marked with white, and then this middle one is a 2 gig stick. It wouldn't boost for Windows, like your operating system wouldn't boot for Windows, but I did manage to get Ubuntu running without a problem. I did add an extra hard drive, so this is where the original hard drive was. This 3.5mm hard drive that you see here, that's there in the CD drive, it was actually here. I replaced this with the 2.5mm 1TB hard drive, which I'm using as a more safe storage because it's in this casing and it's within the server, and it's a better quality hard drive overall. For the actual bulk storage, I have an external drive connected of 3 terabytes, external hard disk of WD. Since this, like you can see that there's a SATA port, but then there isn't a power port. So I pulled out the power from the CD and the SATA connection from the CD drive and attached it to my main drive. So this is where the operating system is. This is 180 gigs, and then this is the another internal drive, which is 1 terabyte, and then there's one external drive which is 3 terabytes. So how does this work? Basically, if I scroll down here, so what it is it's just a computer that's sitting at home, right? Connected to the LAN. So I have this connected to your router. I have this hardwired, and what I've done is I've set a static IP address. So this is at 192.168.2.100. So keep it simple. So this is where my server rests, and then I have 2 devices of my own connected to the router. That's my laptop and my phone. Each of which also have a static IP address, but that's not necessary. What you do is you install Ubuntu or any other Linux server on this. You could also install the Windows server, but Linux is just easier to run headless and get everything running. You install your Ubuntu operating system onto this. Then I initially had encrypted the drive with the operating system as well, and the external drive that's connected to this. So I had both I had both the internal 160 gig hard drive and the external drive encrypted, but I found it hard to restart the server. I would have to go down and type in the password, and I don't have a display there sitting in the garage. Like, this server's in the garage, so it would be difficult to type in the password every time. So what I decided to do, I reinstalled Ubuntu without encryption. Before I had used Lux encryption. Now I don't use Lux encryption on this. I just have Lux encryption on this main drive, which has all the data on it. Since there's just configuration data on it. There's no real data that is important. And when I mount this hard drive, I type in the password in the server. And if someone were to turn off the server or disconnect the hard drive, it would immediately stop being mounted, so it would no longer be decrypted. So I'm pretty good on when it comes to data. Then so for the file syncing part of the thing, actually, let's talk about the ad block. Ad block basically works in this way. If I go here, so go to, like, if you're 192.168.2.200/ABMIN, this takes me to Raspberry Pi. 200. This takes me to Raspberry Pi hole, and you can see the queries blocked. You can, this is the total number of queries. The queries blocked, and then the percentage is blocked. So these are all the ads that were requested that was blocked. It's just basically doing a domain level blocking. Then I also have Syncthing running on the server, so that's handling all the file syncing of all the 3 different devices. That's the server, the computer, and then the phone. Let's talk about Pi-hole. Pi-hole was pretty simple to set up. All I had to do was one single command to install Pi-hole, and then it walked me through a CLI installer. And I'll leave a link in the description as to how to install Pi-hole. It's not that hard. Once I had that set up and running, I just had to configure my my laptop and my phone to use my server as the DNS. So both of these to use this as a DNS server, and then that goes through to the router. So this way, if there's, for example, an ad dot something 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 website, so as you saw here, there's 97,000 domains blocked. So if it's any one of those, then it just returns 0.0.0.0.0, so that doesn't go anywhere. If it's not, then it routes you to the right IP address. This way, I don't have any ads on anything, so whether it be on my browser, whether it be on in-apps, or even on my phone, for example, you'll have those banner ads on games on phones, or you have ads on news websites, or anything like that. I don't get any of those. It was mainly for my phone, since for my browser, Brave already has ad blocking built into it. But for your phone, it's a lot harder to get ad blocking because you don't have something like an ad blocker for apps that the developer builds, like CNN apps or Flappy Bird game apps or whatever be the app, because they control what's shown to you. Now, for the controlling of the server, how did I set this up? Well, once you start the server, you have to physically go and install your operating system onto your server, and then it'll ask you if you want to start SSH. So you want to start SSH. Once you have SSH set up, then it's pretty much just doing SSH and then 192.168.100, and that'll log you in. Ooh. That seems to be complaining about some colors. Well, I still got into it. So if I do neofetch, it'll usually ask you for a password, but I just have added my public key into my server so that it's one of the known hosts, so it won't ask me for the password. You can also, if I exit out of this, so you can configure domains on your Raspberry Pi. So I've configured a domain on my, sorry, not on my Raspberry Pi, but on your server as a DNS server. So if I do SSH, suchiserver.com, now that's not a real domain, but since I set it on my DNS server, that's my server, to redirect to 192.168.2.100, if I do this, it takes me back to the same place. And when you first do this onto your server, you probably won't see this. You'll probably see something like this, with something like something that looks like that, where you have a $sign. But I've since then installed ZSH on the server so that it would just look pretty and it's easier, and then I get the fancy like autocomplete and all of that. So if I run a quick add stop, then you can see there's 400 megabytes of RAM used out of the 4 gigs. Then you can see here Syncthing. That's an important one that's running. Then you should be able to find the Raspberry, the Pi-hole running somewhere. There we go. There's Pi-hole running. So these are the two main things that are running. Once you have those running, so you can just run the Syncthing doing Syncthing, but you initially wanna do you wanna set the address, the GUI address, I think is what it's called. EDRESS. You wanna set this to 0.0.0.0:883 so that it's shown to the entire local network, because usually it's just localhost. Then anyone in your in your local network can't access it, and it will be since you don't have a GUI on your server itself, because it's just headless, so you don't want to do that. You want to post it to your LAN, so that you can come here, so you can see Suchi server, and then 2020. I rechanged the port to 2020 so that it's easier to access. Okay. Here you can add folders that you want synced, right? And you can add your remote devices. So right now, these are the two devices that are connected to this machine. So this is a server, this is my computer. I have Syncthing running on my computer, and even on my phone I have Syncthing. So I have this one folder called sync that syncs all the important documents. You can see there's a sync here, and there's a sync on my phone as well, like the folder called sync on my phone, which has the documents, the pictures, anything that I know I want synced across all three at all times. Like I don't want to have to worry about if I have a Wi-Fi network to access them. That I have just syncing all the time. And if you see this, Suchi Home is synced to the server, Suchi Home, and SD card FE and internal Samsung FE. These two are from my phone. This is from my computer. So this particular one just syncs my entire home folder. So anything that's created inside /home/Suchi will be synced immediately to my server, so that if anytime I need anything, I can access my server for it rather than having to turn on my computer. And same thing with my phone. Anything that's on my SD card or on my internal storage is immediately synced to my server, so that I can immediately access it from there. For example, if you just saw this, so I was making the video for this. This YouTube video, and I wanted the pictures that I took on my phone and the videos that I took on my phone to edit it. And instead of copying from there, I just went to Suchi server. You can see it's mounted. Then I have SD card FE, and I went into DCMI, got the pictures from there. So that no matter where I am, like where the laptop is, where the phone is, whether it's in the whether it's connected to this specific Wi-Fi, or whether it's on data, or whether it's in a different country, it doesn't matter, since the server is running all the time. The moment I create a file on either my laptop or on my phone, it's immediately synced to my server. So for example, if I were to do this, and then if I create a file, so come here, you can see that this is a replica of whatever's here. There are some the UNB programming documents. The symlinks are missing because that's included in the sync. That's a separate folder, so that's here. But other than that, if I were to create a new file, create a new file, call it testing.txt. Then Syncthing will very quickly pick this up. We can go look here. There's a number of times it scans. We'll have to look at this. Yes. So there's a number of times this scans. Like I think it scans every minute or so, I believe. So I'm not sure if this already has synced. Looks like not. We can hit. Oh, I just saw that go. I didn't click on rescan. It just, I think automatically just went. Let's see. Yeah. Maya just pulled it in. Oh, switching home. There we go. Testing.txt. Basically, any file that I create on my computer is immediately going to be replicated on my server. Now, since I deleted that, it's going to delete it here as well. Again, it says out of sync. It's going to update it. If we come here, if we hit F5. Oh, maybe not yet. Takes a hot minute. Let me just rescan this. Actually, that might take a minute. And rescan this. And you can see this revert local changes button. That's basically in case I make a change or I delete a file, then there's a backup of it kept on the server. This has versioning, so it's called staggered versioning. You can see that it says staggered file versioning. So whether you change a file, whether you delete a file, you can always click on this, and then you can revert the local changes that were done. You can even I know there's a way to look at all the changes that was done. Yep. So all of these are the different versions of the files. So all of these files have changed since then, and you can see that that file got deleted. So that's Syncthing. No matter where I am, what kind of file I create, it immediately clears the file on my server. It's sent to my external hard drive so that I have everything backed up at all times. Now, here's the best part. Let's say I'm not connected to this Wi-Fi network, right? Let's say I am connected to some other Wi-Fi networks in some other part of the world, right? Because this, if I do ping server.com, you can see that the IP address is 192. Now that's a local IP address. I can access my server locally, but can I access my server from anywhere in the world? That's the question, right? So what I've done is I have a public IP address for the router, and I've enabled port forwarding for a particular port. I'm not going to reveal which port in the video, just so that it's safer. But I've mapped it. I have the IP address of my server that I can access. So I'm going to pause the video at this point. I will turn on my VPN, then access my server from some other part of the country. Like, for example, I'm gonna turn on the VPN and shift to, let's say, the States or some other country, the UK or whatever, and I'll access my server that's here at home from there. I'll be back in 1 second. So now I've turned on my VPN and I've logged into my server. This is me as if I were to be in US Denver. So if I were to go here and say what's my IP, let's just quickly do this. Bus, and bus. You can see that this is my IP address. If I zoom out, you can see that I'm in the United States of America. And that's because of my VPN. But even though that is the case, I have complete access to my server from my terminal. That's completely because of the fact that I have the public IP address of my router. And through that, and through using port forwarding, I have connected to it. And I can access my server. That means no matter where I am, I have all the files that are on my computer, that are on my phone, from any part of the world. And that's just fantastic. Just to finish things off, let me just turn off the VPN. So, to finish things off, I have this Suchi server folder, which basically lets me access. This is the secondary drive that I told you about, the 1 terabyte hard drive, and this is the 3 terabyte external hard drive. I access this from my computer as if it were a normal computer by using something called SSHFS. So if I were to bring up a terminal, SSHFS, so that's the IP address of the server, which folder it has to be mapped to, and the folder inside the server, and then which folder on my local machine that it has to be mapped to. Doing that lets me also, I have, again, you need to do the IP address, like the pasting your public SSH key file in your server so that you can do this easily. You can do that by doing SSH copy ID, so you can see that, something like that. So you do SSH copy ID and then your public key, then your server's address. So Suchi at suchiserver.com. And again, suchiserver.com only is suchiserver.com because I've mapped it to that. Like, suchiserver.com isn't a real domain name that I own. It's just something that I use locally that I can access my server easier. I've done the same thing for Google Drive. You can use something called rclone to mount a Google Drive file. So all in all, I have 200 gigs of storage on Google Drive. I have 3 terabytes of external hard drive storage that's connected to my server that's accessible anywhere, that syncs all my data. Then I have 1 terabyte of premium, quote-unquote, storage internal of my server. And note that the hard drive, that's the 3 terabyte and the 1 terabyte, both of them are encrypted. So let me just show that to you. If I were to come here to SSH Suchi server.com and I were to do LSB, okay, you can see that there's SDB, right? This is the Ubuntu machine. This is the primary disk. Then you have SDA. This is my what is this? The 1 terabyte hard drive. And you can see it's mounted there. And you can see that this is script. That's because it's using LUKS encryption. Same with SDC. A 3 terabyte hard drive also using LUKS encryption mounted to. I think that'll be all for this video. I hope you've learned something, or you can use this method of creating a server at home to create your own sort of Google Drive situation. I have something called, let me look at it. It's admin hands on my Android device, which allows me to have SSHFS, like the basically SFTP, Secure Shell File Transfer Protocol, and SSH as in the remote console on my phone as well. It's really makes your life a lot easier, and you'll never have to worry about losing data or not having access to data because it's on your computer or it's on your phone or whatever the case is.